everybody. This is Blair Johnson with the Badass Records podcast, welcoming you into the show. Happy to share with you all that this week's guest is James R. Wilson Jr. He can be found in a number of places over on the gram, namely at Waxtron. There's also Waxtron Industries, Duckett's Ruckus, and terranova.tapes. All over on Instagram. He's also got a YouTube channel called Waxtron Industries, and I am grateful for Mr. Wilson's time. He is working on an art show currently slated for Saturday, April 12th at the Alcott Art Center, so be sure to keep tabs on his Waxtron Instagram page as that date nears. Should be a cool endeavor. Podcast episodes air Thursdays. Find them where you stream over on YouTube. If you want to keep tabs with the thing via the socials, Twitter and Instagram are the spots for doing that. Everything about the podcast lives on the site, which is badassrecordspodcast.com. If you want to reach out to me and say hey, or suggest a guest or volunteer yourself to be one, badassrecordspodcast@gmail.com is the way to do that. Appreciate you stopping by. Hope you enjoy the show. So, 153, as you mentioned, if all goes well, Badass Records podcast, James R. Wilson Jr. How's it going?
It up and went.
It up and went.
No, it's going great.
Nice.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you much. Instagram bio at Waxtron.
Yep. That's
Waxtron Industries.
Yeah.
Duckett's Muckus.
Ruckus.
Duckett's Ruckus, sorry.
Duckett's Ruckus.
Which is Duckett's.
Yes,
RU.
It's the wrong spelling, but yes, it is.
And then terranova.tapes.
Yes.
Can you tell me a little bit about each of those accounts?
Yes. Well, Waxtron is me. I got that name. I gave it to myself. I needed in November of 2001. I moved in with my girlfriend at the time, and I needed an AOL name for her AOL account.
Wow.
So I combined my favorite band at the time, Waxwing, which is
okay.
Indie rock band from Seattle.
Cool.
Rocky Vodolato is a singer, so he's gone on to do some pretty big stuff on his own. And his brother Cody was in the Blood Brothers. He was in that band as well. So I was into them, and I love the movie Tron.
Oh, okay.
So Waxtron is what it became.
God, I have not watched that since I was a kid.
I think there's even a sequel again
Is
coming
there?
out. Another sequel.
Wow.
Or maybe it's like a TV show or cartoon or something. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay.
But I like the original. The sequel was like whatever.
Right.
That original aesthetic with just the lines and everything glowing, I don't know.
It's handsome.
That.
Yeah.
So I needed that. So
yeah.
I was like, oh, well, it's Waxtron. And then it's just like everything I did after that was just Waxtron.
Okay.
So, and Waxtron Industries is sort of like the umbrella name for any creative thing I do. It's just like, oh, this is Waxtron Industries. And that comes from World Industries, which is like a huge influential skateboarding company in the early 90s.
Okay.
They were like, it was World and everyone else at that time.
Really?
Yeah. So, and
I think Powell and Peralta and Bones Brigade and
World is right after that.
Okay.
World is what killed the Bones Brigade.
Really?
In a way, yeah.
Okay.
In a way. So it was Powell and like Santa Cruz, Vision. Those were the big 80s companies. And then the early 90s, there was a shift. And it went from these big, huge companies to smaller skater-owned.
Gotcha.
So it's like Steve Rocco was a freestyle skater. He started World. It started out as SMA, but there was already a brand called SMA.
Okay.
So it was just kind of like a pension thing, and it was like SMA World Industries, and then it was just World Industries.
Okay.
And then he started more companies with other people, like Blind with Mark Gonzalez, 101 with Nodis.
Dang.
And then on and on, and they had so many different brands at one
This
time.
coalesce on your shirt looks like something that would have been on a deck
For sure.
in the 80s or 90s.
Yeah. So Coalesce is a KC hardcore band. Been
Okay.
around forever, mathcore, metalcore, whatever you want to call them. So they're back together again.
Nice.
Doing shows. So I got this at the first show they played back.
Cool.
So they had a secret show because they had to be secret. So
Okay.
'cause they had a official first gig at a festival. So they did a surprise show, and I was like, oh yeah, I took my son.
Nice.
The first time we actually went to a show together.
Cool.
Surprisingly, he's 20 now. So
Dang.
yeah.
Okay.
We almost went to another one, but he missed out on that.
Okay. So then, Waxtron's you. Waxtron Industries is the umbrella over
Yes.
the creative things you do. Duckett's Ruckus.
That is a skate crew from the 90s.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
So I was involved in, well, my first skate crew was a gang. It's a gang.
Yeah.
We were called Suicidal Skate Locals,
Okay.
which is a middle school thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So yeah, I started skating in 1984, mostly just by myself, and like my bike got stolen at school, so then like my skateboard just became my transportation, and I kind of liked it better anyway. Then one day I skated up to 7-Eleven, and there's this half pipe in this yard.
Really? Where?
Yeah. KCK.
Okay.
7-Eleven is like, it's the curve. It's where Central turns, and it turns into another street. I forget what. It's like
Okay.
31st, I think.
All right.
There-ish. I don't know exactly. Anyway, it's kind of like this weird triangle shape right there for a minute. And then there's this one house, and then like the backyard you could see from this road. And then there's like a church and a beauty shop across the street. But then when you're driving down Central, you can see it. And then I was like skating up to 7-Eleven to get a Slurpee, get a magazine.
Yeah.
That was like my weekend thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I go, and then I see these kids, and they're like probably high school, early high school, and I'm like elementary school. I'm a metalhead. I got like long hair.
In grade school,
Yes.
you're a metalhead.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
I started early.
Okay.
Yeah, we can get into that in a minute. But so they were calling me heavy metal man.
Nice.
Heavy metal man. I had this crappy like skateboard with like plastic trucks, which is just not legit at all.
Right.
But they took me in. They kind of showed me some stuff.
That's
and it's
cool.
just like my skateboard had one of those big bubble things on the tail, so like you couldn't do anything with it. This one kid was like, "All right, here, let me see your board."
You could legitimately slow down if you're going down a fast
Yeah,
hill.
but like if you want to drop in on a ramp, that's not happening.
Right.
So he's like, "Hey, let me see your board." He took it off. I don't think he even asked me. He's just like, "We're getting rid of this." Which is like, yeah, thanks.
Cool.
So I'd see those dudes occasionally here and there. They ended up having 3 different mini ramps, and I found all of them by accident.
Wow.
The other 2 were in alleys. Like, you could see them from alleys, and I would walk through the alleys to walk home from middle school. So I was like, oh, I know these guys.
Cool.
So I saw them for a little while. I still see one of them sometimes. So one of them died.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, well, we're old now.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is a gang?
Yeah, so it was really, at that point, it started in 95. So that one wasn't really a gang. It's just like a crew. It's like,
Sure.
we all call ourselves something. We're like, oh, this is my crew. It's my crew. And I was in a crew before that, and I wasn't skating with those guys as much. I was skating with a couple other dudes more now. And then, like, one of the dudes in that crew, like, we made a video, and, like, I had a shared part. And, like, every time he'd talk about the part, he'd say, friend section. And to me, like, a friend section is, like, you're not on the team. You're just friends with the team. And he wouldn't say it any other way. And I was just, like, felt like I wasn't really a part of the group. And then I was like skating with these other guys more anyway. So I was like, okay. And then the 2 of them, Scott Wingate and Rick LaHue, those are the 2 dudes in Duckett's. I was working one day and they were talking about, we need a name for our crew. And they were both smokers. And they were smoking these cheap cigarettes called, 'Bucks. 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 ' And they're like, yeah, bucks, like ducats. Yeah. So the three of us kind of started it together, and it became Ducats. That was the crew. And then Ducats Ruckus comes from a song that we'll talk about later.
Okay, cool.
So,
and then Terra Nova Tapes.
That started because my friend Mark Terranova, who became a Ducats guy as well.
Awesome.
He was a filmer back in the day. So he made like the first Let It Ride. Yep.
Camcorder?
Yep. Camcorder. He had a Canon High 8 camcorder.
Cool.
Probably 96, 97, 98, around there. He made, as far as I know, the first official skate shop video in Kansas City that was like distributed.
Okay.
You know? So
cool.
Yeah, he was the first one.
This is it took me 4 sets of cameras to get to one that I don't know tech and gear.
Yeah.
But to get one that would function the way it's supposed to, and then also the way that it could format cards had to be readable. Anyway, my cousin recommended this particular one, and he was like,
Panasonic?
Yeah, and he was like,
stuff.
It might be discontinued, so I wouldn't sit on your hands. And I'm only telling the story because I feel like I had a good finger on the pulse of the vibe of the world in the 80s and the 90s when I was a kid doing things like that. Like, you could go all these places, and the biggest difference to me was that sometimes adults would treat you as if they're adults and you're kids, and sometimes adults would treat you like same level. Mm-hmm. Anyway, but for the most part, shit made sense.
Yeah.
So I look online, and Target's got this one store's got 2 of them. So I go, and the kid that is working the electronics department, and from 50 yards, I'm like, oh, this is going to be something, because he just looks weird. Like, there's fucking weird people everywhere now. And he's with a couple standing there, and they're like discussing amongst themselves, not engaging with him. And I see one, it needs a key. And I was like, and he's like, one moment, sir. And I was just like, okay. And then they finished their conversation and left and didn't need him. And so he's like, what now? And I was like, this one right here, the thing says that there's 2. Is there another one in back? Because I only see one in the case. And he's like, I'm sorry, what's a camcorder? I'm like,
oh, that's funny.
First of all of these things on that shelf in this case say that on the fucking box, and probably in your digital inventory system, but also outside of this job. How do you not know? Anyway.
That's hilarious. My daughter works at Target, and like, she's told me some things about her coworkers, and I'm just like, what? Like, she was getting trained by this dude for stocking shelves, and he's like, yeah, just put it up there, don't worry. It's like, it just sells anyway. Don't worry about it. FIFO.
Yeah. So, each of these Instagram accounts.
I'll finish about the Terranova.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
there's a little bit more to that. So he was a filmer back then.
Yes.
And
first KC circulated.
Yeah.
Sorry, I cut you off.
It's all good. That was fine because it was about cameras. He had some tapes, and he was sitting on them. He had them in a box. He's moving. He's like getting all his stuff.
VHS, I'm assuming.
High 8.
Okay.
There was one VHS tape though that was a crash edit.
What's High 8? Sorry.
High 8 it's a smaller tape.
Gotcha.
It's
it means a smaller thing for you to hold while you're.
Yeah.
And then did the thing that you recorded on fit into a VHS tape?
That would be VHS-C.
Okay.
That's a different format. So VHS-C is the same as VHS. It's just in a compact size, and it has like one thing, and then there's like another one that's like smaller that you don't see, but it looks like kind of like half of a VHS
so
tape.
A High 8.
High 8 and 8mm and Video 8 it's a tape. The tape itself is like 8mm wide.
Okay.
And the thing about it is it's supposed to be a little bit better quality than VHS compared to what some people say or not. And the audio, I think, records all across instead of like with VHS, the audio is just like on one thin strand. It's goofy.
Gotcha.
I could be entirely wrong though.
Either way, your homie's got a box of these tapes.
Yeah, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna give you these because I know you'll do something with them.
To you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And this was probably 2018 or something like that. It was pre-pandemic. So he gives me these tapes, and I'm like, okay.
And they're old.
Yeah, they're old. They're 90s tapes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
sitting
90s.
on them, and then
he's like, hey, I got these. It's like, I know, I trust you. Do something with them. It's like, okay. So I talked to another friend at the time because I didn't have a player or anything. I didn't.
Right.
It's like, okay, I gotta figure this out. Well, I know Dan. He can digitize this for me. So he digitized it and sent me the files. It's like, okay. And so I did something with that, and I was like, well, I'm gonna make these videos from these tapes. I gotta call it something. What am I gonna call it? It's like, well, it's Mark Terranova's tapes, so it's Terranova Tapes.
Gotcha. Okay.
And since then, I've added more. Like, I've got my own collection.
So that is what is on that Instagram account, is what you've done with the tapes?
Yeah, those tapes, my tapes, which I had to get my friend of mine had my tapes for 20 years and wouldn't give them back. He had edited videos. He won't let any of us have copies of his stuff.
Okay,
that's a nightmare.
All right. So then, what's the content on Duckett's Ruckus?
That's just Duckett's stuff. If I make something,
you and your that group of buddies. Okay, so, cool.
We made a Duckett's video also.
Nice.
It's on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so each of these, there's a YouTube link in each of those IG accounts, but I think it's all the same.
I think those all go to the Duckett's Ruckus video.
Gotcha.
So we came up with Duckett's, and then Ruckus is the name of the video.
Okay.
So I linked all the accounts to that video specifically because that was the big project.
Okay, cool.
It's like 40 minutes long.
Right on.
It's like a full-length video.
Cool.
So
I got to check it out. And then, how did you find this podcast? Do you remember?
You hit me up.
I hit you up.
You hit me up.
Okay.
Yeah. That was because Sister Ann's started selling a photo I took at Recycled Sounds.
Really?
And then you hit me up shortly after that when they started selling it. I was like, okay.
Cool. Very cool.
So yeah.
My apologies.
It's okay.
The outreach is bursts of.
Good. It's been a bit.
Sure.
I took a while to get my list to you.
Okay. Right on.
So
well, nevertheless, super cool that our paths.
Yeah.
Whatever, and we. Whenever that happens, and the community, sometimes it's months and months. Sometimes it's been 2 years.
I'm sure.
Whenever it lands in a person being in the chair, in the flesh and blood, I'm grateful because it doesn't always work that way. So thank you.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So
it sounded fun. So.
Yeah. So you born and raised KCK then?
Yep.
Okay.
KCK.
And where before we were rolling you at the door, you said sorry for your loss. R.I.P. and peace to Mr. Lesh.
Yeah.
And I was. And you said that I'd said that I was a deadhead.
Yeah.
So you've poked around.
I've watched a few. Yeah.
Okay.
I had to watch a few.
Was it?
If I'm going to be on something, I want to be familiar with it.
You would be surprised.
I would not, because I listen to podcasts a lot, and I hear people who are on the podcast, and it's like, there are podcasts where it's like, they have specific things that are in every podcast. Somebody comes on this podcast, and they didn't bother to look at what they were going to be doing. And it's just like, come on, pay attention.
I think that there are those folks, but then I think there are folks that are like legitimately busy.
Yeah, I get that.
And then folks that don't give a shit. I'll come do your thing. I'm not going to listen to your show or watch your show. Anyway, I feel like most folks a couple days before will revisit their own records.
Yeah.
And maybe day of, perhaps even on the way over.
I did listen to one on the way
scan
here.
A couple of things, but I mean, so the ones that you've taken a peek at, how did you choose which ones? Was it just the most recent, or?
I looked at what they liked.
Okay.
It's like,
cool.
If you got something that like I'm interested in, I'll give you a shot.
Awesome.
If you have a bunch of crap I don't want to listen to, I'm not gonna. Not even. I'm a bit of a snob.
Hey, that's.
But I don't. I like garbage too. So.
Many reasons for doing this. One of those is to hopefully shed a little bit of that in me.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I mean, I've learned I'm mostly gonna stay in the lane that I'm in, that I've always been. I mean,
Yeah.
and it varies, it shifts and looks different.
Yeah.
But this, for the most part, stuff that I've never really been into, I'll listen to it for this, but it's not going to enter my daily. What anyway?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm not gonna listen to Fish.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I'm not gonna listen to Grateful Dead. I do have a Fish story though.
Okay.
Which is silly.
So any idea at all? What was the conversation where I said I was a deadhead?
Nah, I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Okay.
It came up, and then I mean, if you listen to Fish, you probably listen to Grateful Dead too.
That's the only reason I asked, because they're my jam.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've always loved the Dead, and I dig Dead and Company too. But they're my side piece, if you will.
My dad was into the Grateful Dead.
Okay.
So
all right.
I want to say that their house probably still has a Dead sticker on the front door.
Cool.
So yeah.
So
he's always been into it.
What's your Fish story?
So on one of the Fish albums, there's like a band photo, and one of the guys is wearing a sweatshirt that says Shawnee Mission West.
Yeah. It's a book.
Oh, it's a book. Okay.
Yeah.
So I know that
it's
there's
back here.
Okay. Yeah, because a guy I used to work with went to Shawnee Mission West, and he's like telling me, he's like, yeah, dude, my friend met them, gave him a sweatshirt, and then he's wearing it in the photo.
Yeah.
So he was like, he's stoked about that.
I think that was a lady friend, and I think there's kids.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I think.
I didn't know it was that involved.
And I think somehow Lawrence is, like, maybe she went to West and then went to KU. I don't know. But there's definitely been some Lawrence in the mix.
Oh, right on. How could you not love Lawrence, though?
Regardless of the musical lane or lanes you inhabit, because we're all different. But you go there and it's like vibe.
It was pretty funny. Like in like the 90s, like late 90s, early 2000s, every show I went to in Lawrence, there were hippies there, no matter what, no matter what the band was.
Maybe that's why I always feel vibe, because that's
hardcore show, hip hop show. There's always some patchouli.
Yeah. Okay, so you had a buddy that met them.
Yeah.
Nice. So Trey has, a pretty long. Trey and they all kind of have different relationships akin to the Dead and their paths and things they've done together and so on and so forth. So they, however many years. I think Trey's 17 years sober.
Oh, wow.
And he built this facility. I forget the name. It's a rehab.
Yes, rehab.
Rehab. In the Northeast.
Okay.
And they're in Albany. Like, they're not touring right now.
Okay.
But last night and tonight, 2 shows in Albany. Everything goes.
Oh, right on.
Proceeds go to that. And so they open with, last night they opened with Box of Rain, which is the lead-off track to a marvelous Grateful Dead album called American Beauty.
Yeah, that's probably the one if you're going to pick one, right?
Hey. Right? You know your shit.
Yeah, okay. I don't like it, but I mean,
Anyway, Phil sings on that song, and Phil
on.
Seldom. Yeah. In comparison to Bobby and Jerry, he didn't sing as much. Okay. And so they opened their show last night with a cover of Box of Rain. It was just like...
That's appropriate. Yeah.
Anyway, so KCK?
Yes, KCK. So I lived there until I was 15.
Okay.
So I went to, it's kind of funny. Like, they did some weird stuff for desegregation back in the 80s. So, like, my neighborhood
Here in the Midwest? What do you mean?
So, my neighborhood school, there was, like, all white kids except for one black kid.
Yep.
So, we all went there from kindergarten, with, like, everybody in my neighborhood and, the surrounding neighborhoods went there from kindergarten to 3rd grade. But in 3rd grade, there's 2 other middle schools that were all black. So they took the kids from those two middle schools, and they all went to third grade at my school, which is Francis Willard. And then we all went to fourth grade at Central Elementary, which is which is right down the street from Memorial Hall.
Yeah.
And then we all went
Great venue.
Yes, fantastic. We can talk about that a lot. Then we all went to Douglas, which is over by Sumner, for fifth grade, and then we went to Central Middle School.
Okay.
So, and I went to Sumner briefly because I was a smart kid.
I did.
But I got kicked out.
3 years of social work over there
nice.
For PACES of the Wyandotte Center.
Yeah.
So you're either a caseload of kids, and you're either with them in the community at their homes or in the classroom with them. Yeah. So I was in tons and tons of probably almost all the schools over there.
Okay.
And it was always fascinating at the elementary level. The middle was like, this is a different, and then you get into the high schools and it's like, holy shit, dude, I don't know if I feel safe here. And because this is 2008 when I started, and metal detectors everywhere.
Yep.
And kind of being like, is this really necessary? And everybody's like, yeah. Yeah. I'm like, oh, my bad.
In sixth grade, a kid pulled a gun on me walking home from school.
Fuck.
Yeah, he's like, he was shaking like crazy. Like, he was just shook.
Broad daylight?
Yeah. Right, like literally right after school, in the field next to the school. We're walking across it. There's actually an elementary school in that field now. My cousin was with me. My cousin's like 2 years older than me.
Was he by himself?
He was by himself, and he had this
pulled a gun on two
pistol.
People.
Yeah,
what a dope.
He's like he's shaking. He's a small kid. I thought we were friends.
What do you want?
Stop making fun of me, man.
No way.
Stop making fun of me, man. And I was like, what? I thought we were like, what?
Are you serious right now?
Yeah, and my cousin, who's a girl, or at the time, she's like probably 8th grade girl, or maybe 7th, I don't remember exactly. But she's like, put that away, pussy. You ain't gonna do nothing. And I'm just like, what the fuck is happening?
Holy shit.
So he put it away, and then that was it. So
siblings for you?
Yeah. I mean, so my mom and dad were both previously married. They each had a kid.
Gotcha.
Whatever.
Okay.
We don't talk to any. Those two do their own thing.
Okay.
My mom's daughter was like, she got remarried and then just decided to stop talking to everybody.
Okay.
Even her dad's side of the family.
Wow.
Like, her oldest, my nephew, killed himself.
Damn.
Yeah, it sucks so bad. But when we went to his funeral, like, her stepmom came over and talked to my mom and was just like, have you heard from her in a while? And my mom's like, no, she hasn't talked to us.
Damn.
Yeah, she married this guy. It's just...
Okay.
But
so where are you in the pecking order?
So I came after. I'm the first of my parents' marriage.
Gotcha. And then
I have a little sister.
All right, on.
So it's like 6 years older and 6 years younger.
Gotcha.
Is the spread.
Okay. How did your folks meet?
So in KCK.
Okay.
People used to cruise, right?
Yeah.
Cruising.
Yeah. Cruising Ann.
It was State.
Cruising State.
State
All
Avenue.
Right. Yeah.
So there was a drive-in, or maybe they met next to the drive-in or whatever.
Gotcha.
Like a restaurant type drive-in, not a drive-in movie.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they met and then just, I guess, hit it off.
Sure.
My dad had a custom van. So it was a Dodge. It was white. It had this really neat, it said Euphoria, I think, on the side of it. Yeah, it was pretty dope.
That's rad.
He had it for a long time.
Nice.
So they were in a custom van club. I remember going to like van meets when I was really little.
Wow.
With all the plaques and everything.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Yeah. Cars and like motorcycles were always a part of my childhood.
Okay. Cool. Did they put on music for you guys to listen to in the home when you were young?
Yeah, my dad listened to a lot of music.
What was he into?
It's hard to remember everything at this point. Like, he did definitely like the Grateful Dead and Bob Dylan. Those were constants. So, and he was always listening to something. Sometimes I'd like it, sometimes I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But I mean, for the most part, I didn't pay that much attention because that was his thing. But yeah, he always had like, pretty decent setup. Had some Bose speakers and.
Really?
Yeah.
Way back when, huh?
Yep.
What about mom? Is she into anything?
Yeah, she just kind of listened to whatever on the radio,
Cool.
you know.
Yeah.
Neither one of them were like stuck in the past. Like they'd still listen to like new stuff. My dad's in his 70s, still looking for new music. So
Today.
yeah,
Awesome.
which is great because like so many people they hit like 30 or whatever, and then like they don't ever hear anything new.
No,
So-
it's just the Fox.
Yeah,
For life.
yeah.
Or your Creedence tape.
Yeah. What's even worse is like the kids who were like 16 or 17 in high school, like were our age back then.
yeah.
And they're only listening to classic rock. It's just like, I mean, come on, like there's.
I mean, I lived there for a while, you
Yeah.
know, but I was
Yeah.
wanting to download all of it so that I never entered a conversation about music where I felt uninformed.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I think that's enough. And then it's like hip hop, rap, jam band, and found other niches and discovered after a little bit that I was there long enough that there's quite a few songs that I've heard so many times that they bother me to this day when they come on. Like most Creedence.
Okay.
I'm just like, I don't need to hear that any more times. I got it up here.
I have not been burnt out on CCR, thankfully. I do like them.
And it's not they're an example.
Yeah,
And it's I think Chronicles maybe.
Yeah.
The 40 track greatest hit. I played the 11 and that was on top of what FM radio was already giving me, right? So it's anyway.
Thankfully, I wasn't ever really that into it, so I didn't get too much. But there are things like Hendrix is just like there's been so much Hendrix.
Yeah, and
I went to a show like last week, and this opening band played a Hendrix song. I'm like, really? Come on now. Like, why are you doing this?
So, outside of the list that you shared with me,
Yes.
First album that you fell in love with or bought or borrowed that you...
Okay, so when I was a really, really little kid, the first cassette I got was a gift from my parents for my birthday, and it was the soundtrack to Break Into Electric Boogaloo.
Wow.
That was the first thing I had. But before that, I was too young to really remember this, but my parents told me that I loved the Alvin and the Chipmunks Urban Chipmunk on 8-track.
Nice.
So
that's probably worth some money if it's still around.
I don't have that
Right.
now. But I do also remember my mom had a Pointer Sisters cassette, and I liked I'm So Excited. I remember really liking that song.
I remember they had to jump for my love. They had to
Yes, that was on there too.
They had to make For My Love a parenthetical because Van Halen had put out Jump at the same time.
Yeah, couldn't have Jump and Jump.
I know, right? That's
so
awesome.
Then I bought a record
Yes.
one time. We went to Kmart, and I bought my first record, and it was the California Raisins.
Oh, yeah, hell yeah.
Wish I still had that, because I think that is actually worth something now.
I have a little cigar box full of figurine, and most of the
Nice.
Hardee's California Raisins figurines are in the... Anyway.
That's great. Then the first thing I bought was Poison. Look What the Cat Dragged In.
Okay.
But prior to that, the first song I remember just like, oh, yes, I have to hear this all the time, was Home Sweet Home by Motley Crue.
Great. That's a great tune.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is like 3rd or 4th grade. When I'm getting into this stuff.
Okay. So what about live music? Any early or first concert
The first
memories?
show I went to, my mom took me. I was 12. It was at Kemper Arena. It was Rat, Brittany Fox, and Kix.
God, I feel like I can see the marquee.
Yeah, it was great.
Wow.
And then for a few years, my mom took me to a lot of shows.
Really?
We saw Alice Cooper and Danger Danger at Memorial Hall. And we were walking out after the show, and Danger Danger was hanging out like on the door of their bus. So we're like, hey, hi, blah, blah, and talk to them just for a second.
Nice.
That was pretty cool.
Wow.
And they made like some sort of sexual joke or whatever. And
To a lady with her son?
to me,
Oh.
there was a bunch of people around too, though.
Okay.
And the guy was like, yeah, you can ask your mom about that one or whatever. And I was like, I know what it means.
Retard.
I was like,
Oh gosh.
So then, yeah, we went to see Warrant with Dangerous Toys and like 3 other bands.
Damn.
That was at Sandstone.
Yep.
And it was where they filmed the video for Heaven.
Okay.
It was a KXXR special event thing. The radio stations will have like Rockfest.
Yes.
It was one of those kind of things. And
Gotcha.
Warrant was like on the come up, so like probably the biggest place they played at that point.
Yeah.
So they were like, yeah, they filmed like all the scenes and stuff for the video. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I had a shirt that had the album cover on the front, and then like on the back print was just for that show. So that was nice.
Cool. And so the second, let's see, Waxtron Industries, the umbrella for anything creative that you do.
Yeah.
What was the birthing point or the spot to sort of put this creative self into bloom, if you will?
Oh, that's hard. I've always been into art and making stuff, and so like I had the video camera back in the 90s, and like I had that because I wanted to make a video. I didn't finish it. I just ended up with like 30 tapes of stuff, and that's why my friend had them, because I was like, he made videos at the time, and I was just
and
like,
he still has them and won't give them
no,
back?
I have them.
You got
now.
them. What was
I have some of them now.
Okay.
So, yeah, we had a big, huge, years-long battle to get them back.
And what was his? I mean, they're yours.
Yeah.
What was his? Why did he feel entitled to say anything except for here? Right? Is that a fair question?
Yeah, that's one everyone would ask, except for him. He's the only one who would.
Yeah.
Like, no.
So why?
I have no idea.
Okay, you never got to the bottom of it.
No.
But you got some.
I got them back after years.
Gotcha.
Years.
So always been into art. You had the camera.
Yeah, and then I had a still camera too.
Okay.
So that's probably, so it's kind of getting back into everything after having time off. Like I was working and had family and stuff. Like I was married twice.
Life was happening.
But so Mark gave me back the tapes, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do something with this. And I was also about the same time, I think that maybe why he gave me the tapes was like I was going through all my old photos, so I ended up self-publishing a photo book of skate photos.
Cool.
Yeah, it's really small. It's like just my friends mostly.
Still cool.
Yeah. I mean, it is nice. I'm glad I did it, so we got a negative scanner and started scanning negatives and
cool.
doing and ended up doing, first I did a hardback, and I was like, hey, I'm going to do this book. And I kind of been posting stuff so people knew what was coming. So then like a bunch of people just were like, yeah, okay, I'll buy one.
Cool.
So like I did like a pre-order. I sold them for like $30. It was probably really a $50 book. Dang. But I was not really trying to make any money.
Right.
But,
Somebody sent me a reel a couple days ago. Surely you remember fingerboards.
Oh, yeah.
This dude is doing fingerboard tricks with a buffalo chicken taquito from Quick Trip.
Yeah.
On all of the surfaces inside this Quick Trip. So if you've ever had one of those,
no,
you haven't.
No,
you've never had you don't get taquitos from Quick Trip.
I don't eat meat.
Okay, fair enough. Well, okay, so
they did have a vegan one for a while that I was going to get. But
most
I
of
never
the
got
things on the roller grill are encased in a tortilla.
Yeah,
some are not, and the buffalo chicken is not. And if you purchase one of those and don't have a napkin, you're gonna have a problem.
Pretty greasy, right?
So he's just all over the. So I mean. And it goes on for like a minute and change. And of course, anytime he does I hear Tony Hawk do a kickflip. It was so intriguing and disturbing, and I couldn't look away. Anyway.
That sounds pretty gross.
For sure. And then anyway. Well, thanks, man, for being here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
Excellent list. Definitely not typical.
Yeah.
In the sense that a lot of times the 3 or the 4 or the 5, like you can sort of see connectivity.
Yep.
Or, oh, that makes sense. And sometimes it's curveball after curveball, and you're like, wow, this dude is all over. I
am all over the place with everything.
It's either neither one's better than the other. Yeah. But it's always just a curiosity. I just like to roll through them in chronological release order, if that works. Yeah. One person bristled at that, and they're like, "No, in the order I gave them to you." And I was like, "Jeez, my bad." So if we do that though, we start in 1967 with Easter Everywhere.
That's right.
Where's my Easter Everywhere? Stuck in the middle for some reason. Catchy name, 13th Floor Elevators.
Yep.
This is second of 3 for them. 10 tracks, 41 minutes. Psychedelic rock from Austin, Texas.
Yep.
And I have never heard of these guys. So give me the full skinny on them and why this one earns the leadoff spot.
Okay. So they are the world's first psychedelic rock band.
Really?
Yes. They were the first to do that. There had been some psychedelic music before that.
I'm so glad you said that.
That was like more folk based.
Okay. So I put this on and
you didn't know what to think, did you? Did you have any idea going into it?
Until just now. I was like, and what a weird thing to be like, I don't have a label to put or a thing to call this.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, it's like lo-fi, it's like kind of Velvet Underground vibes. Yeah. And it's like, anytime you listen to something like that, you can tell that it like is just right here in the timeline of history. And you can sort of see the things that would come from it and the things that came before it. Yeah. But I didn't this was just like floating out there. And I'm like, I want to put it here.
What comes after this? What came before this?
Yeah. And I never fucking had an answer until you just said that.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
So they started in Austin. I think the main mind behind the band was actually Tommy Hall.
Okay.
Which is the guy who did the Electric Jug. So when you're listening
I saw that. I was like,
what?
Okay.
Yeah, it makes no, like, Electric Jug, what? Like, and, like, I don't think anybody really has done that after him, or definitely not before him, except for, the singer is Rocky Erickson, who's gone on to have,
he did other shit?
Status. Oh, yeah,
okay.
Yeah. He's huge for some people.
Gotcha.
And his son did play Electric Jug when they were touring together.
That's wild.
Right before he died.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
And so they started down there in Austin.
Yeah.
And this guy was, had this idea of the Electric Jug, and he's like, and basically what he's doing, he's making those noises, but then using like the jug to like sound it out and then into the microphone. So it's just kind of odd, and it's like, sometimes it's like, what is going on here? It's like maybe not even really in sync with the rest of it. It's just like,
are you getting any of this?
Yeah, I'm good.
Are you good temperature? When we first came in here, I was like, it's warm in here.
It's all right.
Okay, cool.
Good. So, and then Rocky Erickson was the singer. So
gotcha.
Then Stacy Sutherland's the other guitar player. And then there's a couple other guys. I don't remember exactly who. So Rocky played guitar as well. And he's like the one that's known. You've probably heard one song from them before.
That's
on?
On?
Not have known. Not on this record.
Okay.
That's on the first record that came out in '66.
Okay.
Which was a concept record about tripping on LSD.
Sweet.
So
I like that neighborhood.
Yeah.
What tune do you think it is?
It's called "You're Gonna Miss Me." If you've ever seen the movie High Fidelity,
I just watched it for the first time like 2 months ago.
It's the first song in the movie. Like when it's dark and you hear the needle drop.
Yes.
That is that song.
Oh wow! What a trip. Okay.
Yeah. So that and the cover for that is like got the eye and all the psychedelic stuff, and it's just like.
I've brought it up because I've been told my whole life, and then my lady friend was, you got to, and then there's a show also.
I haven't seen the show yet.
Right.
Yeah.
But
I read the book.
Okay. I I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, Nick Hornby, a British writer,
Okay.
wrote it. So it's like set in the UK and all that, and it's
So I liked it. I didn't love it.
Yeah.
But the big, for me, then the reason why I bring it up is I always, I'm often interested in what does genre mean for you? Is it important? Are you somebody that like, this is the third wave of post-punk right before the, and so then it's like, okay, if you had a vinyl store, and you're arranging your inventory, with the tabs,
Yeah.
How would you feel about putting different releases from one artist in different genres?
Yeah.
In the and then the big thing is, would you ever arrange your music collection in chronological order of the way that you discovered it in your own life? And to me, it's got to be alphabetical by artist. Anyway, would you? Do you care about genre?
There's only 2 genres.
Okay.
Good and bad.
Fair.
No, I have not organized. Like my bookshelves they're organized by kind of sort of genre, like art books, or I have more books than all the records and everything. Like the records are just chaotic. I don't even have a record player set up.
Gotcha.
I stream everything now. So,
yeah.
But I do actually have this on vinyl.
Okay.
The original pressing with the misprint.
Interesting.
So it's not in good shape though.
And
if
how did
it'd be a few $100s.
What was your discovery story for them?
So my dad actually lived in Houston, Texas for a while as a teenager, around 66, 67. So the elevators were actually stuck in Houston for quite a long time. They had traveled a little bit. They toured. They went out to San Francisco. San Francisco loved them, but they ended up back in Texas.
Okay.
Rocky's singing style is actually a huge influence on Janis Joplin.
Oh, interesting.
So, like, the screaming that she's known for, she got from him.
Okay.
So
what? So this was part of his collection, or?
Yeah, he bought it brand new. He bought the first one brand new. I gave that one back to him. Like, at one point he said, "You can just have my records." Like, he doesn't remember telling me that, but he hasn't had a record player in decades.
So how often does this 13th floor elevators come up in conversation, and you have run into somebody that is familiar with them?
There are some, like
sure,
like Rocky's solo stuff, like, is probably more common with people I know.
Okay.
So then, like, he had a genre called like death rock, I think it was, or whatever. So he did some cool stuff, and he's kind of like Daniel Johnston or whatever that guy's name is in a way, because Rocky was hospitalized for schizophrenia. Like, he got busted for marijuana in Texas, and so he tried to plead insanity to, like, get out of it. And they ended up putting him in a criminally insane hospital.
Damn.
Yeah, it was rough.
That sucks.
So there's a pretty good documentary about his brother, like, getting custody or whatever of him to help him along and get him back into doing music. And so that's kind of like, he had like a great comeback story. And then, like, at the end of his life, his son was taking care of him, and they were touring. My dad and I went to see him twice.
Oh, cool.
So yeah,
right on.
It was great. It was, my dad and I have been to see 3 shows together, I think. 2 of them were Rocky, and the other one was Paul Simon and Brian Wilson.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
My sister went to that one as well.
Nice. Yeah, man, it was, I don't know, I guess this is just the way that my brain operates, but that whole thing of, where do I put this? It's like, I've heard stuff adjacent to what this is, but never anything like it.
Yeah.
And I can do that,
really
but I also have a fairly good feel of where I would put it in my mental library.
Yeah.
But this was just like, nope.
That's great. I love that. I love that.
I'm gonna make sure he's got his acting.
The elevators.
Yes.
So how I arrive at the elevators.
Yes.
Okay.
They're stuck in Austin for a while.
Yeah. So they're stuck
Houston.
in Houston.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my dad saw them all the time.
Gotcha.
Saw them like a ton. It's like, he loved them, and then just they faded away. Like, he didn't even really know too much about Rocky Erickson's solo stuff until much later. So when I was in middle school, we used to go around to record stores on like Saturdays. We, get up and go do father-son stuff together. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, going to record stores is one of the things we did. We'd go to car shows, drag races. So
cool.
And we would go out to Lawrence and go to the Love Garden. So when it was upstairs. So, and we were there one time, and in the case, they had this CD box set, and it was the 4 elevator records on CD.
Are there 4?
There are 4.
Okay.
Technically, there's really 2, but there are 4.
What did I say? I thought I saw through that this was 2 of 3. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, one of them's a fake live album, so that.
Oh, gotcha.
You don't have to count that.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then the third one.
But a box set
has like 2 Rocky songs, and the rest are just kind of like, what's going on? Like, yeah, they're fine, but they're just not quite the elevators.
Right.
So he saw this box set, and he was like, whoa, that's cool. It's like, I haven't heard them in years. So he was like thinking about it. Go back a few months later, it's still there. A few months later, it's still there. Like, he didn't pull the trigger right away.
Gotcha.
It took him a while, and then he was just like, yeah, I'm going to get it. So he got it. And he was listening to it, and I'd listen to it with him. And I think before he bought the box set, he saw that there was a tribute record that came out in the 90s. And it's had like all these bands doing covers,
Of theirs.
Yeah. So,
cool.
Like, the one I remember the most is like the Butthole Surfers. They were on there.
Awesome.
Because they're also from Texas. So, and then,
right.
They're probably a huge influence
on
them. So he bought it, and then I was like, okay, yeah. It's just like, oh, I'm a punk rock, heavy metal kid. I'm just kind of like, yeah, okay, Dad, whatever. Then as I get older, I'm like, oh yeah, this is cool. So it's one I listen to a lot. Like when I was making that Duckett's Ruckus video, I was looking all over for music, and since all the footage is from the 90s, I decided that there was a cutoff that no song in the video could be after 99. It had to be 90s or earlier, so nothing from 2000.
How many? So you sampled tracks?
Well, when you make a skate video, like there's usually a song that plays with the part.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just played the song with the part. And
now, did you go through my terminology might not be, but there's a lane in YouTube when you're upload or whatever, where these tracks are up for grabs in terms of copyright. Or did you upload and it?
I uploaded and waited to see what it told me.
And
there are only 2 songs got flagged at all.
Okay.
So, well, 3 songs because there was 2 by the Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh, gotcha.
So my friend Scott was way into the Smashing Pumpkins when we met him. We used to tease him so much about it.
Which Pumpkins tracks?
I used Today and Cherub Rock.
Cool.
Cherub Rock first and then Today. So
it's the lead off for Siamese Dream. That's the 1 and 2, right?
I don't remember where Today is on it, but
maybe 3.
Yeah, it's pretty early.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway,
so it because it happens to me when I'm choosing intro little snippets.
I bet.
I figured out that I can mostly get away with if I keep it under 9 seconds. So I'm like 8:59.
Yeah.
The one that came out this week.
Okay.
Got it's partially blocked in certain areas of the world. I'm like,
that's funny.
What a punishment. So,
yeah.
If anything, and that's happened a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And it always says this isn't a strike. The artist allows. However, if this is ever monetizable, it's going to go to them. Yeah. And I'm like, for the 8 seconds in this 3.5 hour video, that makes it really anyway.
So I've had a few instances with different things I've uploaded. So like the Pumpkins, they're muted in Russia and Belarus.
Of course.
So the Ghetto Boys was just like non-monetization. so I can't make money off of that.
Yeah.
And the other one that was interesting was I had a rare VHS tape that had Jamie Thomas, big pro skater. It had a rare part of his, so I uploaded that. It had a Doors song on it, and the Doors were just like, no.
Yeah.
So that's muted.
Gotcha.
Like everywhere. Facebook,
the
Instagram.
gal who did episode 4 with me, we played, she's a singer, songwriter, musician out of Lawrence. We listened to 3 of her tracks.
Oh, nice.
And I was, in the beginning, I was making TikToks of every episode, and I eventually ran out of time and energy for that.
For sure.
I would love to pick it back up, but immediately the clips of hers muted. I'm like, it's hers. Like, how is the machine being like, you can't use that? Like,
yeah, that's funny.
so dumb. Anyway.
Yeah, that's funny.
Huge leap forward from 67 all the way to 95. Mobb Deep's The Infamous.
Oh, did we miss one? I thought there was a 76.
You're, gosh, my bad.
It's okay.
My papers are out of order.
That's 96. That's the last one.
96.
Did you skip the other one altogether? You got 3 or 4?
I've got 4. Did you?
There's a third one.
What am I missing here?
It's Muzak, the Muzak Orchestra.
Okay.
76.
This is the problem.
Okay.
I have, per the streaming source,
yes,
2017 as the release date.
Yeah.
That's not accurate.
That's not.
Okay, cool. Let's do that then.
Okay.
All right. So, instead of Mobb Deep, we are talking Muzak Stimulus Program 1976 by Muzak Orchestra.
Yes.
I have, this is great because we'll stay in the lane of confusion from 13th floor elevators to this. So I had mistakenly noted 2017. Mm-hmm. So I want to see if I have this correct. 11 albums, 1 from each of the last 3 years, and then 8 of them in 2017 is the listing.
Yeah,
right?
I don't think that's right.
Either way,
I think that's when the
a reissue. Okay. Either way, the version I came across, 12 tracks, 30 minutes. Yes. I couldn't find any details about who or what this is.
Yeah.
There's not a wiki. There's not a fucking goddamn thing.
It's Muzak. Do you remember Muzak?
Of course.
Elevator music. That's what it is.
This is not.
This is that.
But it's not. Okay.
This is that.
But so when you would hear Muzak,
mm-hmm.
That wasn't people. Like
they recorded it, and somebody had to back then.
But how much was there? How much Muzak was there?
So, like, this particular thing, like, you see how it's called, like, stimulus program?
Yeah.
So they made these albums, and they kind of had some sort of maybe pseudoscience to it, but they had a logical idea of a layout to it. So it's like track 1 is a certain beats per minute, has certain sounds, and then track 2 goes a little bit faster. It has a little bit more sounds that are like, this. Then track 3 is a little bit more upbeat. And so this idea was that you would play these things like in your workplace so that you're
massaging the mind.
Yeah, so that your employees will like work a little bit faster. And then track 4 is the rest track. Supposedly. That's what I had read in the past.
So you're telling me that every piece of music that I've ever heard in an office, an elevator, a grocery store, humans sat down and recorded that?
Yeah.
So all the same people?
I don't know about that.
And why would they not be credited? Maybe they signed a thing saying this.
Yeah, it's like a corporate entity type of thing.
Wow.
Muzak was like a brand name, which is funny. Like, I worked at a fast food place in the 90s. And we had a satellite receiver, and that's how the music would play in there. And it was like every one of these restaurants in the chain had the same music. And I looked at it one day and it said Muzak, and that was like the company that owned it.
Yeah.
So it's just like they built this like empire, and it's like maybe like I don't know if they still do anything now, but yeah, back when they were making like the elevator music.
I guess I've literally never thought about how Muzak was made.
Yeah.
It was just
I
like
mean, who would?
on the third day, God.
It was a punchline growing up, you know. It was just like every sitcoms would always have like jokes about elevator music and this that.
Huh?
It's terrible, but it was everywhere when we were like kids.
Everywhere.
It was everywhere. No, it's nowhere.
And
It's just like,
sometimes you wouldn't pay it any mind. It's
exactly.
like the wind. And sometimes you'd be like, that's a fucking cover. I know
Yeah.
I know that tune.
Yeah, yeah. And hearing like, you know, the Muzak version of Purple Haze or something, it's pretty funny.
Okay, so I listened to this not for my this okay, I listened in the order given by you, I
Okay.
believe.
Yeah, I
So
tried to do chronological for you.
So I listened to 13th and then this and it was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And then the second track I was like, this is very provoking for some reason. Then all of a sudden fucking Welcome Back caught her.
Yes.
And I was like, what's happening right now? This is dope. And I was like, oh, I think these are all other folks.
So
I who knew that Muzak spilled into the album lane?
Yeah, like I had no idea until like I kind of found this. Like I was looking at it. The reason I got to this is like several years ago now. I don't know how long it's been, but I was getting into like synthwave stuff and like kind of just like that sort of electronic music more, and just looking for just like stuff that was interesting. And I came across something called vaporwave, which is like also very aesthetic based. Like there's like certain images, dolphins, the like 80s style sun with the lines, you know, like that sort of stuff. And then there's like a music component to it too. And like I was reading about it and it was like saying how they sample like two genres that Muzak, and I was like, what? Muzak, really? So then I was like listening to it and I was like, oh, okay. And then the other one was like city pop, which is like a 80s Japanese pop music style. It's like also pretty mellow. It's like chill.
I feel like I can hear
is,
it.
like, chill.
Yeah.
And so like one of the things they do is like they sample this stuff, but then they EQ it to where it sounds like you're in a mall and it's playing at the other end of the mall. So it's just like this like really atmospheric and just like chill. It's like this vibe.
Yeah.
And then like part of the idea is that it's like you're nostalgic for a time that never really existed. And like that idea was just like kind of appealing to me.
That's Wrinkle in Time kind of shit right there,
And
man.
then I ended up making a trailer for that Ducats video that used the Muzak version of Dolly Parton's 9 to 5.
Okay.
But like I slowed it down, put a bunch of reverb on it.
Ooh.
And I put clips of Charles Bukowski talking about work sucking over the top of it.
You're speaking my language right now.
So
drugs are bad, okay?
And then like I just did like all sorts of like visual stuff to the clips.
Rad.
So like I did some like analog stuff to it too. Like I would just like I got a video mixer, so I fed it into that, and then so that this video mixer has like a time-based something to it. I forget exactly what it is, but so like oftentimes, you know, if you're watching like a videotape and it starts to glitch out, the screen will go blue.
Yeah.
Instead of it going blue, it'll actually show you what is happening. So I played some tapes that were kind of messed up a little bit. Then I had found this thing at a thrift store before, and I was going to take it apart and make a guitar pedal out of it. But it was like an RF modulator maybe. Something that you put between your antenna and your TV to lower the signal. So that if the signal is coming through too strong for your TV to handle.
It's not just uniform?
No, I guess not. So it's something from Radio Shack that I found at the thrift store for $1.
R.I.P. in peace, Radio Shack.
Yeah, I was like, oh, I could make a guitar pedal out of this. But it had like one knob on it and then two coaxial inputs. And outputs.
Yeah.
So I fed the video signal through that, and I would turn it down to where like the signal is just getting like messed up, starts like shredding. It has like these lines that are going this different ways. So that was like fun.
Cool.
And that's something I hadn't really seen anybody do, especially not in a skateboarding video.
Right.
I've seen people do some video stuff too, but not that exact thing.
Can you... Is the photo or the piece of art from Sister Ann's that is that easily accessible?
Yeah.
Can you pull it up?
No.
That's okay. You can send if you
I'll have to show it to you
if
later.
you stumble. Yeah.
It's a guy in at Recycled Sounds looking at records. It's a black and white photo.
Okay.
So
Awesome.
I'll have to dig for it. I thought it was easier.
That's fine. Man, that's super fascinating.
So yeah, then the Muzak. So that is like how I got into it. But what I usually listen to it for is to go to sleep, because it's so mellow, it's so chill, and I am an insomniac, and I have a hard time.
Do you?
So if I
what do you think you're getting nightly?
Hours wise?
Yeah.
It's been better lately because I've been getting to sleep. I usually go to sleep at like 11 and get up at 6.
Oh, okay.
So it's not too bad now.
Okay.
But it was like, getting up at 6 and going to bed at 1 or 2. But I've been more tired lately, so that helps, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
And
good sleeping music.
yeah, for sure. So that's what I mainly listen to it for.
Nice.
But I came to it through that vaporwave stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, yeah, this is fun.
So, musical, or I'm sorry, Muzak stimulus program, 1976. There are a few titled like that have the year. And I think I said 11 total that I could see.
Yeah.
Have you poked into each of them? Is it
yeah.
all as dope as this?
Pretty much. Some of
Really?
it's even better, actually.
Really?
I picked this one just because that was the year I was born.
Gotcha.
So I think the two that are the airline tapes are probably the two I actually like the best.
Okay.
It's like one of them starts out with I'm a Believer by the Monkees.
Yeah.
So that one's pretty good.
Ding, 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 ding. Shrek. I mean.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, apologies for having.
It's all good.
If I would have, I don't always just take the streaming services information as gospel. I poke elsewhere.
Yeah.
But I was like, everywhere. It kept taking me to the wiki page for just Muzak, and I'm like, not that. Mm-hmm. I want this.
It is that in a way. It's just it's
fascinating.
It's when you get into like a corporate entity manufacturing rather music instead of like musicians like more organically making it becomes a whole different thing.
Right.
So
well, that was a great listen. So now we can go to Mobb Deep.
Yes, now we can.
The infamous.
Yes.
First and a first.
Yes,
I
figured.
I
saw FK Menace pick this one.
FK Menace, yes.
I was a little mad. I was like, oh, but no. I almost did a redo on it.
Also KCK.
Really?
FK Menace.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. By way of San Antonio?
I'm thinking of Dink.
Okay.
Dink, who they know each other.
Yeah, I haven't listened to Dink's episode yet.
FK Menace, Texas, though.
Yeah, San Antonio. So it ties back to the elevators.
Yeah.
That's right down the road.
So this is 95, 2 of 8 for them, 16 tracks. I can't read my runtime minute-wise. But, shouts out to FK. What is your Mobb Deep discovery story? So
this comes... Probably 70% of what I love in music has come from skateboarding videos. So, like, somebody has a part, they have this music with it, and then it's just like, oh, that's dope. I need to get that. In 95, July of 95, issue number 12 of 401 Video Magazine comes out. At this time, I am buying every video I can get my hands on. I think I still have this one. And so we're watching it. And 401's a little bit different than most skate videos because, like, most skate videos are basically a promotion for the company. It's like, oh, here, this is our aesthetic. This is what we're about. It's marketing.
Yeah. I mean, snowboard videos kind of followed that same mold, right?
Same thing. So if you're familiar with snowboarding videos, skateboarding.
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but 401 was a magazine. So it had articles. The video parts were articles. And so this video opens up, every episode of 401 is the same. It has the slow motion section at the beginning. So it has like, a handful of tricks that are super sick and they're slow-mo. Then it has the intro with Lance Mountain telling you what's going to happen.
Lance Mountain. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. And then Chaos, which Chaos is just like, it's all these different tricks and everything. There's no theme really to who's in it usually.
Excuse me.
The song for that one was the Alcoholics, the next level. So that was dope. It's like, oh yeah, this is sick. Then it had clips of the Alcoholics in it. And it goes to the next part, and then it gets to this guy Moses at Conan, who's from Vancouver. He has a part, and it's got this Mobb Deep song on there. And this, the album came out in April. This is July.
Yeah.
So they're probably editing it in April or
fresh.
whatever. Yeah. So it's. I think 411 had like an agreement with some record labels. I think maybe Loud was one of them because like the licks are also on Loud. So it's like kind of you can use this because we see it as promotion.
Right.
Whereas some people like want money for the song to be used.
Right.
Some people are like, oh no, yeah, I know that if you use this, the people who watch this are going to want to buy this. So yeah, that's free advertising for me. Some people see it that way, like Bad Religion. They said, surfers, skaters, yeah, you guys are our culture. You can use our music just fine. So a friend of mine, I have several friends who have made videos. Some of them, get clearance. Some of them don't. Some of them make videos that are big enough that you have to get clearance.
Right.
So like, David Bowie was like $5,000, but then a band like Yo La Tengo wanted like 3 times that.
What?
Yeah, something like that. I don't remember the exact amount it was, but it was just like very cost prohibitive. So it's just like, yeah. So Moses has this Mobb Deep song, and I think it was Eye for an Eye. And then we're watching it, and it's just like a few parts later, it's this guy Clyde Singleton. He's got Survival of the Fittest. And we're just like, oh, what? And then it gets to the end credits, and it's got, I think, Right Back at You. It's just like, oh, there's 3 songs that are sick from this band? Yeah, I'm getting this. So I went and bought the tape. I was like, oh yeah.
What was your spot where you got that tape?
Oh, I don't remember where I bought that one exactly. It's probably Street Side.
Yeah. Okay.
Probably Street Side.
A duo, right?
Yep.
What?
Prodigy and Havoc.
There you go. Okay.
From Queensbridge.
Gotcha.
So, and the great thing about this one is it combines so much of the East Coast hip hop that I love.
Oh, nice.
So like, there's the line in the song where it's Ghost and Ray and they say banging Nas, Mobb Deep, and Wu. That's like the Holy Trinity right there. But then you can also see, I don't know if he actually got credit for it or not, but if you read like the wiki about this, it'll talk about Q-Tip's influence.
Okay.
From Tribe.
That feels, oh yeah.
Yeah.
That feels vaguely familiar.
And he produced at least one of the tracks. I think it's Drink Away the Pain that he has the verse on. I think he produced that one.
Cool.
But what he also did was this is the first time Havoc had done production. So I think he kind of showed him how to do some things. Like the quotes that I've read about it are like not exactly clear because like the guy says beats and like, what do you mean by beats? Do you mean like the actual rhythm of the beat? Do you mean the sounds of the beats? So I think what had happened was Q-Tip came in and like improved some of the sounds, whereas left the structure the same. I'm not exactly sure.
Turned a few knobs.
Yeah.
Potted a few things
so, like,
up, a few things down.
Made the snare sound like this. Like, hey, here's how you do this. Probably showed him how to like stack sounds to get him to sound better too.
Right.
There's a really good video on YouTube. I think it's Track Lab. Not Track Lab. It's like Track Lib, like short for library, LIB. And they break down the samples on Shook Ones, Part 2. And shows how like it's this like little snippet from here, a little snippet from there, and then they slow it down. And like it's this minor sound and it's slowed down, it's staticky. So it's just like really rough, and slowing it down just makes it more eerie, and it's just hard. It's grimy, it's gritty, and then like the lyrics are just like hard as fuck.
Cool. Very cool.
It's fight music.
Yeah, absolutely. So they, would we say, second of 8? Have you poked around at their other records or
yeah, no? I bought the one after this. It wasn't as grimy.
Okay.
It got a little too smooth.
Okay.
So it was not as interesting to me. I like some of it, but I just
gotcha.
I like the dirt.
Yes, I hear you.
The roughness.
Yeah.
So it's like Wu-Tang's kind of the same for me too. Like I love Wu. Like 36 Chambers, and then Tikal, Method Man's first record. the first ODB record, Purple Tape, even Liquid Swords to some degree. Like, those are dope. But then you get to, like, Wu-Tang Forever, and it's just, like, they sound too comfortable.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as rough.
You're 1,000% correct, and I like it.
Yeah, like the smooth.
Yes.
Yeah, that's...
like 36 Chambers, like, can we just chill, like, a quarter? Can we just take it a quarter of a tick down? And you know what I mean? And then it's like, oh, well, here's all these other records that do that. Go check those out, It's like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they're an awesome duo. Which leaves us in 96, and I was the nerd in me, in the order that I had it in. We're like starting in Texas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Queens.
Yep.
And then Manitoba.
Yep.
I'm like, we just keep going north. Like, who's his fourth record? Are they going to be like in Iceland or something? But let's talk more rock. Propaghandi. Is that correct? Or is it Propaghandi? Or
they say Propaghandi.
Propaghandi.
I've always said Propaghandi, but when I've heard them say it, they say Propaghandi.
So it's 96, second of 714 tracks, 25 minutes.
Yep.
Hit all of the punk rock record boxes checked in terms of brevity, right?
Yep.
Tell me about these guys and this record.
So I got into these guys with their first record, How to Clean Everything.
Okay.
Which is even more pop punk than this one. Which at the time pop punk was pretty huge. It was in like every skate video. So Bad Religion, I love Bad Religion. No Effects. I like some No Effects, not all of it. But
just played their final show.
Yeah.
Now, so those two, and I know a lot of their neighbors.
Yes.
Bad Religion, No Effects, but that's no longer punk. It's
pop punk.
Pop punk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
because they, seem like the punk that I listened to when I was exploring that. Getting out of classic rock land and a little punk, but louder and oftentimes more polished or So if it just feels like the gear got better. This is punkless garage, and now we got a studio. But they're different. You're saying
there's more pop influence. Like there's more of a focus on like melody maybe or that sort of thing, and it's just like. It's a slight style differentiation, like you were talking about with Wu-Tang, wanting to turn down the roughness just a bit. This turns down. This kind of smooths out the roughness.
I don't mean grit and grime.
Yeah,
roughness is a different knob, right?
Yeah. So it's I want to say like in a way it's like watered down a little bit. Yeah. It's like punk, but instead of it being like
I hear you, and I gotta say, in the same way that you feel about the Dead and fit, like you recognize it. I'm not gonna like it.
Yeah,
that's punk for me. My initial analysis. It's broadened often since then, and I worked at 20 years in restaurant industry, mostly in kitchens, and there's a cassette player that lives on a shelf in there, and everybody's got to take turns, and so I listened to a shitload of punk over the years, and I want to say Dr. 47, episode number 75. Okay. Somebody in that neighborhood had a Bad Religion record on their list. And I was like, God damn, this is fucking killer. So it was always just
so good.
In the folder of power chords, scream. And
it depends for Bad Religion for me. They have like a 4-album run where I just love it. So it starts with Suffer, which is like the first record where they really did the like poppier style. Like before that, they were just more hardcore.
Gotcha.
But actually after that, they went a completely different direction. They kind of had made like a synthy record. That one's just buried. Like you have to like look for that one. Interesting. Yeah, it's called Into the Unknown.
Okay.
And it's it's mostly unknown by people these days. But then they went back and did No Control.
I think that's the one.
Yeah, No Control. That's probably the best.
Okay.
That was my intro to them.
What's the fourth?
Well, the third would be Against the Grain, and then the fourth one is Generator.
Okay.
So
I
Suffer,
think it's No Control.
No Control, Against the Grain, and Generator are like the four that are just like.
And I mean, they're, you know, there've been a healthy number of punk records on people's lists, and you know, a lot of it sounds akin, adjacent, similar. But when something stands out, it really stands out.
Yeah.
And you almost like peel back an extra layer of listening.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, like just track after track when that Bad Religion record ended, I was like, God damn, like some real shit went into making this, and I got limitless respect for that, right?
And with No Control, I think that is like the height of the big words for Bad Religion too. Like I think like some people call them thesaurus punk for a while.
I like
because,
that.
Yeah, you know, it's like there's the line, the quintessential mindless modern epicene. So it's just like something like that. It's just like, you know, it's like, oh, maybe punk isn't just dumb.
Right. Fair.
So
anyway, I again detracted.
So, yeah, and like, you know, Bad Religion's got a lot of political stuff. Propaghandi is even more political.
Oh, okay.
It's like it's like,
well, the terminology around the frame is really, and I think there's a track with PC in the verbiage.
Yes.
And this is the peak of where we're really getting not cancel stuff. This is way back in 95, 96 where it's like you can't say that and you got to be this way, right? And
to some degree, yeah. Like, but they're joking like the whole time too. So like in that song, apparently I'm a PC fascist, which I mean, think about it, because that's like that is fresh right now. That is something like,
of course,
you hear people are like, oh no, you're the fascist. And it's like, not really, dude. Like
every time I hear something, I'm like, you mean like Mussolini? Is that what what we mean?
Yeah. So, but no, it's like just being like militant and being like, you know, this is what I believe in. This is what I think is right. And so like the first two songs on this record are animal rights songs. So
legit.
Yeah. Which is why like there's that breakdown in between them. And the track listing on the CD actually splits between the words. So like the track 1 ends and he says consider someone else. Track 2 starts, stop consuming animals, and bust into the next song.
Huh.
So it's
wow.
Yeah. So it's
and like there's a track with like I'm the such and such non-animal human. I forget what it is, but it's like there's a message in there that's pretty
much every song has some sort of message to it. So like I could go through the track list and name them off. Like the first two are animal rights. Then there's definitely ones about respecting women's rights. Then there's nation states. So like you hear that spoken word piece that has like the chainsaws and the music in the background, and he's talking about just literally reading word for word a Shell advertisement about how they're exploiting. Like there's so much variety on this record. Like most pop punk records, like, you know, it's like they're pretty much. So, and then this is also the last record that they did that's this style.
Okay.
So, their bass player at this time was a guy named John K. Sampson. And after this record, he was out of the band. So he's the one that sings 2 of the songs.
Okay.
So I think it's Gifts and Anchorless. Those 2 songs, like, which sound different, but they're like, oh, these are cool.
Yeah.
And he sang like half of a song on the first record, I think, which is also kind of similar to that in a way. And I really liked that variety and that he brought to it. Like it kind of, I don't know. Then some of the songs are just full on hardcore.
Yeah.
And after this, they went like straight thrash.
Really?
Which, I guess they kind of just considered themselves a thrash band all the time anyway. But then, like after John K. Sampson left, who was in a band called the Weaker Thans, and actually has 2 solo albums. The most recent one of which came out in 2016, and I actually listened to that one a lot.
Nice.
So it's like, it's pretty different. It's like kind of minimalist. So the closest thing I would say to it that I know of is probably like the first Orville Peck record. How it's just kind of sparse. It has like a variety of sounds to it. Some of them are just like really creative, odd songs.
So you're at home music listening situation is streaming.
Yeah, I don't really listen too much at home.
Oh, okay.
I listen in the car.
Sure. Okay. All right. So I was curious if you had, because I mean, I've got on the other side of that wall is my, turntable 5-disc dual cassette receiver speakers, and it's like I've had it on the main floor, and where am I going to put it? And then it's like, well, I'm Bluetoothing in the kitchen off of a Sonos.
Yeah.
And if I so I have I could have that situation here and that situation here, but nothing's ever the same or uniform across the house. So ideally I would love to have the money to have speakers put in and have the ability to use both, if I want to stream something or actually put something on and have it feed into, but it's like I don't have the bandwidth to figure out. So I just operate off of that speaker in the kitchen, but most of my listening is also in the car, unless I'm down here prepping for.
I mostly listen in the car. My wife will listen to stuff. She'll just play it on her phone.
Right.
So I have to listen to what she listens to.
Right.
If I listen to too much, she'll start complaining. I don't complain about what she says, what she listens to most of the time, but I listen to more.
What is she
stuff.
Into?
Oh, I think her most listened to song is a Cardi B song.
Oh, wow. Okay.
She's all over the place.
Yeah.
So, but she has like a track list that she listens to, and it's like the same songs.
Fair.
So,
well, this is a great list. I really appreciate it. I usually wrap with a series of goofy questions, and then we'll get you out of here. So the first is you get to have lunch with any one of your choosing, dead or alive. Who are you choosing and why?
So I had to think about this one. Usually I'm just like, I don't care. I don't want to talk about it. Let's have lunch with Scott. But I was like, what would be the most beneficial? I was like, oh, I know. I would want to have lunch with like a top tier genealogist, so that like I could go through and be like, okay, am I really related to this person? Like where's here? Okay, which one of these Lewis Wilsons is my great great grandfather or whatever? I think it was Lewis Wilson. I don't remember. So like on my dad's side, there's some question marks because whenever he would ask his dad, it's like, hey, where do we come from? He would be like, well, whenever I asked my dad, he always just told me horse thieves from Kentucky. So there's like some question marks there. We're like, and then we're like, okay, we know the names. Then we find the names. Then
Did I hear that correctly? Horse thieves
from Kentucky.
People that are stealing horses in the state of Tennessee.
Kentucky.
Sorry, Kentucky.
One north.
Jeez. Fascinating. So this is not a thing where the 23andMe or any of the platforms.
I haven't done the DNA testing. But
that's what you put it. You swab and put it in a thing,
But my sister, my mom, and like some other people apparently on that side of the family have done some pretty extensive stuff, and we've kind of looked at it and we've seen it, and then this is kind of embarrassing in a way, but so I want to know if it's true or not, because it's just like, is this really true? Like on my mom's side, like, it goes maternally back quite a ways. Her mom and mom or whatever, I think, goes way back to Pocahontas's dad. So like Pocahontas would be my super great aunt or whatever.
Huh.
So I'm just like, is this true? Like, is this real? Can I even believe this? Like,
I mean, Texas.
Yeah.
Right?
So.
Anyway. Interesting. A genealogist. Okay.
Yeah, so I would just like to have, those question marks.
Sure. Makes sense.
It's like, am I really related to Pocahontas? Because, like, it just sounds like a punchline.
So if you can pretend or imagine that we all have a personal and a professional bucket list.
Mm-hmm.
You're given all the necessary resources to knock out your number one on both.
Okay.
What are they?
So professionally, if I could support my family just off of art, so my wife didn't have to work, that'd be great.
Amen. I hear that.
Right now, I'm a full-time dad, and part-time artist.
Okay.
My wife works full-time.
Okay.
And I drive the kids around, so I drive them to school, I drive them to therapy, because my kids have special needs.
Okay.
So
how many kids?
I have 4 total.
Okay. All under the same roof?
No.
Okay.
No. My oldest is 20. He is on the level 1 autism spectrum.
Okay.
So like Asperger's type.
Mm-hmm.
So, just he lives with 2 of his friends. So he works
Good for
full-time.
him.
Yeah.
Nice.
He's kind of doing it. We were like, no, don't do that. He was living with my parents to help them out, and he could help them. Just get a little bit more freedom than living. Because with my 2 youngest, they're 11 and 12. They have a lot more needs. They're on the other end of the spectrum.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they have a lot more needs. So things are a little bit locked down and tighter, and harder for like a 20-year-old kid to blossom.
For sure.
So, and him and my wife kind of butt heads sometimes because they're too much alike probably in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have an 18-year-old daughter who lives with us as well.
Okay.
She's going to JCCC and
right on
full time.
Cool.
So.
And the personal side.
I want to go to Japan.
Me too. Of all the places.
That's like the number one. And it's funny. Like I mostly want to go to shop.
Really?
Yeah. Like, they have such cool thrift stores and bookstores. Like, there's an area of Tokyo called Jimbocho. There's this, like, all-used bookstores. Wow. And new bookstores, too. And then, like, I watch videos on YouTube of people going these places, and it's just, like, there's these boxes, and there's, like, all these, like, wood block prints of, like, various, things. And they're wood block prints, but they're, like, small, and then they're, like, cheaper. And it's just, like, you can get it for, like, 100 yen, which is less than $1.
Wow.
And then it's just like, there's this art store in Shinjuku called Sakaido. And it's just like, my favorite brand of paint is Holbein, which is a Japanese brand. And it's like, you want to get like a 10-tube set of gouache. It's like $85 here. It's like $30 there.
Wow.
It's just like,
I would like to do...
But there's just tons of stuff.
A series of stays. Over there, and I would like to do a mix of urban and rural.
Yep. And
just zero objective beyond just soaking it in and seeing the place.
Yeah. And there's so many things there too. Just like if you could travel from, one end to the other.
It's not huge, right?
It's probably longer than California, I think, top to bottom.
Okay.
Like there's a decent amount of length.
And width-wise?
It's not very wide. Like it's
Texas?
More, no.
Not even?
No.
Okay.
Width-wise, it's probably closer to California. It's probably like...
Oh, really? It's that?
It's
okay.
pretty narrow. And then, like, there's a lot of mountains, too. So,
yes.
Like, there's not that much inhabitable space in a lot of ways.
Somebody recently was talking about situation where they've had mass, like, folks have left rural parts. Yeah. And so they wouldn't rent or sell unless you met certain and now they're like, just anybody will take, because these places are, I think, diminishing.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't, but
my situation doesn't allow for me to do that, but like,
that sounds awesome.
If things were different, definitely.
Hit me in 20 years. See,
I don't know. There are people on YouTube who are like buying some of those houses and then like renovating them and showing what they're doing. Sometimes it's kind of cringy. Sometimes it's like exploitive in a way, but then other times it's people who are genuinely like, I want this because this is rad. I want to live here. So
I only want to see those.
Yeah.
I don't want to see.
Yeah, there's people who are like, I'm going to buy this and turn it into an Airbnb.
I'm trying to slink through each day, avoiding as much cringe as possible because it is abundant out there, especially if you get on the interwebs. Oh, yeah. It's just like, oh my god, fuck.
So.
Great stuff. given the ability to visit your past self any age you're choosing, what age are you choosing, and what are you saying?
That's a bit of a tough one. So I'd probably go back to 95.
Okay.
And say, hey, you need to be a graphic designer. Do it now. Because if I did that then, I would probably be...
Be knocking off those bucket lists.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I'd probably be in a lot better shape.
Sure.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I took a different route. I didn't go to college until I was 30, really. So
cool.
I ended up being an English teacher.
Nice.
Before becoming a stay-at-home dad. So.
Okay. Cool. Fear Factor. You remember this show?
Yeah.
So, not for the purposes of content or winning or competing, but in the vein of the heebie-jeebies, what would be the absolute worst Fear Factory scenario for you to have to endure?
I don't like heights.
Heights
are a tough one.
So if you're in Japan, you're not climbing mountains?
I'm not. I mean, I wouldn't climb mountains here. I mean, if it's a mellow one, you can walk up.
Fair.
If it's a walk-up mountain, maybe I could do that.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean like the face with gear and death.
No. Oh yeah, I have a friend who is like rugged mountain climber. She's always climbing something. She's like competitive climber, and it's just like.
Yeah. I mean, I can't when there's a lane of that on Instagram, and some of these lunatics are doing free climbing with just nothing. I'm like, are you out of your... I can't watch it. I know they're not going to show a person die, but I still am like, nope.
She fell and almost died.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And
wow.
I will say, I think that was maybe what made her... That was like the way okay, this is a little complicated. She transitioned. So when we were friends back in the day, it was a skate homie. It was like, a dude.
Is the cousin with the gun?
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay.
But back in the day, we used to skate together. So, and it was a dude, just and then moved and was a mountain climber and was free climbing and fell and got hurt really bad. And then I think almost dying was just like, okay, I'm gonna not live like this. I'm going to live my true self now. But I that's hearsay. That's what someone else
consolidated
told me.
version. Yeah.
I haven't really talked to her directly about it because I'm just like, okay, I know you are. That's cool. I'm not surprised because knowing you back then, I could see how you get here. So
right. Wow. So heights. I hear you.
Yeah.
Okay. Please complete this. The world would immediately become a better place in which to live, if only.
Well, by the time this comes out, maybe the answer has been answered for that.
A certain event happening next month?
Yeah. So we got like what? At this point, it's like 13 days, 12 days, something like that. I don't remember.
So one of the candidates just on yesterday, I believe, Rogan episode.
Oh, yeah.
And a clip. Somebody in our thread put a clip last night. And it's like it's like a 75-second rant about the mental struggles that Abraham Lincoln had and how for Mary Todd it was even way worse. And it was all rooted in the loss of their son, Tad.
Yeah.
And the person that posted their caption was their son, Tad, died 6 years after Lincoln himself died. So the whole clip is just complete bullshit. And I think that's par for the course. Like, because I saw another one today, just an hour or so before you got here, where the notion of stolen election comes up.
Yeah.
And the response is, we can talk about it. There are so many papers and all the, and it's like, but like what? You're always leaping to the, so tell me exactly what happened. And he sort of says something. And then he goes, I mean, are you ever going to present that? Like, with the like, you just keep saying. Anyway.
Wow. I mean, it's, in a lot of ways, we live in a post-truth society. It's like there is no objective truth. Like there's so much we just can't even agree on. like like stuff that would just like 10 years ago would have just been like, yeah, okay, that's something everybody can see and realize is real.
The Last Boy Scout. You remember this film?
I've not watched it. There's so many movies I haven't watched. You could name
the Bruce Willis one from the 90s?
I've never watched it.
Okay, well, he has
I watch weird stuff.
He has a thing that he says when he's lighting a smoke.
Yeah.
Water's wet and the sky's blue. You know,
yeah.
Those are two things, that would fall under.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe, depending upon the person on the other end of the
Define
conversation.
Wet.
Yeah, right. It's a thing where there's no dryness. No. Well, this is great. Any plugs? Let's see. We have Waxtron. These are all IG handles. Yeah. Waxtron Industries, Duckett's Ruckus, Terra Nova Tapes. They all YouTube channel where
that YouTube channel is Waxtron Industries.
Waxtron Industries. Anything that you wanted to plug or things that you would hope we would cover that we didn't?
Oh, there's probably a lot of things we could have talked about, but I don't know. We can do another one.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
But April 12th, 2025.
Yes.
There is a group art show that I'm organizing.
Cool.
At the Alcott Art Center.
Spell that for me, please.
ALCOTT.
Okay.
Alcott Art Center. It's at 180 South 18th Street, Kansas City, Kansas, just north of I-70. So it is myself and probably about 13 of my friends.
Very cool, man.
So, yeah.
Will you promote that on your Instagram stuff?
Yeah.
Cool. Excellent.
So maybe we can come back again. Let's get closer to that.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate it.
Yeah. It's fun.
The share of the time is always invaluable for me. And we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.